Hello, lovely people. It's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. I'm feeling a little optimistic that I might actually get some sewing done today. I crashed last night before 9 o'clock. I went to bed so early. I even went to bed earlier than Mr. Stitches, which, nearly never happens. Nearly never happens. What's with my grammar this morning? Almost never happens. But yeah, in bed before 9. Played a couple of games on my phone and then turned the light out and I was off. And I set an alarm so that I would be up by 7, not because I had to be up for work, because I'm not actually working till 1:45, but I wanted to actually get something done this morning. So it's already 9. I did my usual morning pootling on my phone, had my breakfast and all that. And to be down here for 9 o'clock is still quite an achievement, I think. Oh dear. What I'd really like to get done today is to make a different kind of pouch for Mr. Stitch's tooth care kit. A couple of weeks ago, I made him a zipper pouch, I think it was. And it had little pockets in it for his toothbrush, his toothpaste, floss, that sort of thing. And he really, really wants a roll rather than a zipper pouch. I think it would be easier, and he'd also like a little bit of room for maybe a tongue scraper as well. Do you use a tongue scraper? If anything goes towards the back of my throat, I gag. I have never used a tongue scraper because the thought of it just makes me want to go, ugh. Anyway, I'll see if I can have a little play with some fabric, the same fabric I used for his last one, the batik and the waterproof, water repellent ripstop nylon, and some purple elastic. He likes purple. I've got some wide fancy waistband elastic. I've only got about 20 inches of it, so it better be enough. And another thing I'm going to have to do at some point, but it's not exactly urgent, is check this old quilt for worn out areas. So this 9-patch quilt here, it weighs a ton. I made this, actually, I put a label on the back of it. Hold on a minute. When I was pregnant with my youngest son in 1998, I did a quilt class and I quilted like mad for about 6 years, and then I kind of got away from it into yarn crafts, back into yarn crafts, because I've knitted and crocheted for a very long time. And why can't I find this label? And so I made this 9-patch out of all of the leftovers and scraps that I had at the time, with a view to it being a beach quilt, so it would get used and I wouldn't be fussy about it, and it didn't matter if it got dirty or faded from the sun. And boy, did it get used. It got used so much. It still gets used. Sometimes I just keep it in my car in case I need a warm blanket or something to sit on out at a park somewhere. Here we go. 1,620 squares I put on the label here. And I made it February 2003. So this quilt, good grief, this quilt is 21 years old. I can't believe that. So I have patched it in places. So sometimes I just did a random wonky patch. And other times I added a whole square over there where it had got really thin. As you can see, this is needing repair. You can see the batting. So yeah, lots of patches, and some of the patches have been on there long enough that even they have faded. Sometimes I just patched one of the small squares, like here and here. Sometimes I just did a big patch. I patched that one and then I quilted over it where those redder fabric squares are. So what I need to do at some point, that square's really bad. Look how shredded that square looks. Can you tell? So one of the things I need to do is, well, I should probably check the back as well, but of course the back is a random mix of different shaped rectangles to construct the back, and it's actually in pretty good condition because of course that side hasn't had the exposure to the sun that the top side has had over the years. I think it weighs about 10 pounds now with all the extra layers of fabric as well. So at some point this guy needs some love, but we'll put that aside for now because I want to get on with this tooth roll. Oh, one other thing I was going to say before I switch you off for now. It pays to be mindful. You know the current craze is the very demure, very mindful. I am not demure, and I'm not very mindful either right now. So this morning I was making my breakfast, which was rolled oats, walnuts, raisins, vanilla soy milk, and a mandarin orange and a sliced up banana. So I've got the first bit done, and my head's like thinking, oh, what am I going to do today? What am I going to film today? Blah, 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 blah. Peeling my mandarin, and I'm mostly peeled my mandarin. And I realized that I was dropping the peel into my bowl instead of onto the countertop. So I had to pick the peel out of my breakfast because that wouldn't have tasted very nice, would it? Oh dear. Yes. Be more mindful, Nicola. Well, I'm pretty pleased with how this little tooth roll has worked out. I made some little scribbled notes here. Of course, I don't have the things here that are going to go in the roll because Mr. Stitches is at work. So I made a plan, decided on the size I wanted it to finish up, added some seam allowances. So I cut this batik 6 3/4 by 8 3/4, and it looked really small. And I was like, oh, if I made it too small, oh well, I've got enough fabric, I have to redo it all again. And then I cut the ripstop the same size and just sewed around, leaving a little gap, turned it right side out, pressed it very carefully because I didn't want to melt my nylon, and top stitched it. So then I had just a rectangle to start with. And then what I did is I took the fancy waistband elastic. You might be able to see some of my blue friction pen under there still. It didn't quite all iron off because I didn't want to use much heat on it. So I sewed this elastic over here and then just drew a straight line, so I was keeping relatively straight as I sewed it down. And I marked the elastic at 2 inches and then 1.5 inches 3 times and then 1 inch. And then rather than have it flat, I wanted it to be 3-dimensional. So when I marked on the ripstop, I took 1/4 inch off that. So I marked it at 1 3/4 and then 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/4, and then 3/4 inch. And it was really simple, just sewing it down. Yes, you can see the stitching on the other side, but it's purple, so it kind of blends in. And then I still had about this much left over here, so I just sewed it down flat. Now I'm really wishing I had left it a little bit raised because I had to squeeze my snap pliers underneath that elastic in between these layers here because I had put the snap in. Anyway, I trimmed this elastic to 3 inches long, and then I made a little cotton casing to go over the end of the elastic, put a snap on it, and I've auditioned it with some marker pens stuffed in it, because obviously it's not going to roll up super tight. I mean, if you roll it up with nothing in it, you'll see where I put the snap, it works without any stretching. But when there's stuff in it, this elastic part here is going to stretch quite a bit. Well, it's very sturdy, but it does stretch. I just tested it out with some things in there. And when it's full, obviously you've got to pull this pretty tight and then snap it around to fasten it up. So what I'll do later is I'll ask him if it works. I'll get him to put his floss and his toothbrush and toothpaste and whatever else in there. And if he finds that is just too much of a struggle to get that done up, I'll have to add another snap. Now, this little section here is so narrow, I don't think I'll get my pliers in that one, but I could put another snap over here maybe. So it would be maybe here, a couple of inches away. I don't think I'm going to have to do that. So I'll show that to him when he gets home later, and hopefully he'll like it. Actually, when he gets home, I'll probably be at work, so I'll just leave it for him to find. Well, this is exciting. 2.5 hours quality sewing time before I go to work. How awesome is that? I really, really need to go upstairs and get ready for work soon, but I'll just finish showing you what I just made. This is a packable shopping bag. It's one of those ones that normally they look like a strawberry, right? This is a Christine's Home Affairs tutorial on YouTube. I really like her channel. She's got so many tutorials on there, and she aims them at relative beginners. So I know that I'm going to be able to make them all. I know I'm not a beginner, but you know, you don't always want to really struggle making something, do you? Sometimes you just want to make easy things quickly. And so she made hers, which looked a bit like a strawberry. She used a purpley fabric for that corner part, but I used this fabric, and this is a polyester that I got for free. It was otherwise going to go in the landfill because it was coming down off the wall at an electronics store. And so it's really strong polyester with a very tiny bit of the edge of a phone printed on that side, and a very, very tiny corner there. I didn't fussy cut it to get the print on. I wasn't going to waste fabric. And I just used the black to make that little corner pocket. And the handles, it's a single thickness. It only needs to be thin because it's going to pack down into that little corner pocket. But it has French seams, which is a really good thing because this fabric frays like the devil. So all you do with this little corner part, right, is you just scrunchy, 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 scrunchy. Now, I don't have any plastic toggles for the cord stoppers, so I did it like she did with the 2 drawstrings. Boom. So you can see how that looks a bit like a strawberry shape. So if you made it in red, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Maybe red with a green channel right there, because they're 2 separate pieces of fabric. But considering that this is going to be used by either Mr. Stitches or one of my sons, a black one with a computer theme is perfect. And I have tons of this fabric. So I think I'm going to have to just plug away and make a ton more of these. My youngest son was just asking me yesterday how much the reusable bags cost at Superstore. And I said, I have no idea. I have not bought a shopping bag for a really long time. The upholstery fabric shopping bags I use, I think they're probably 20 years old. So I don't need to buy any bags. But Mr. Stitches suggested I make something like this. He has a couple of green Waitrose ones from one of our trips to the UK. And so I think having a few more of these would be a really good idea. Okay, 11:37. I need to be ready by 1. I'll see you later. And I'm back. It's now evening. I worked till 5:45 today. So I'm glad to say it was a very easy drive home, because I thought I might get caught up in rush hour traffic, but it was a very smooth drive home. Bonus, one of my kids cooked dinner. I was so grateful for that. He cooked a stir fry and some rice, and it was really good. Had just the right amount of sweet and sour to it. And he did a really good job, and I was very pleased about it because I didn't have to cook when I got home. And so stuffed my face with that, and then I sat down with a cup of tea. Yes, I had a caffeinated Yorkshire tea after dinner. I might regret that a little bit later. And then I sat down on the couch and I watched Claudia of Crochet Luna. She put out a podcast, I think yesterday, maybe the day before. I started watching it yesterday and I finished watching it today. So that was nice. And then we went for a walk. And I didn't get any footage of the walk tonight because it was pitch dark and there was absolutely nothing to see. We did see some deer. We actually got really close to a deer by mistake because we're walking down the road and I'm yakking away loudly, as always. And then suddenly, about 6 feet away, we see this movement, and it's a deer, and it's just getting out of our way and going down into someone's garden. We didn't even notice it till it moved. And we saw a couple more later on, just up the road here. One of them was a young stag, and of course, we figured out that it's not the deer chewing the bark off our young trees. They're rubbing their antlers on them, aren't they? So they're damaging them. So I did recently wrap burlap around the trunks of our new lilac trees on the side. But we've got a small dogwood. We planted that years and years and years ago. It's a very slow grower. It's got quite a narrow trunk still. And I think there's damage on that as well. So we're going to have to wrap that trunk as well. Just going to unravel the rows of this that I did yesterday. I've decided I really do need to go back and pick up the stitches so that there are 60 of them and not miss those corner ones. So here it goes. Of course, I had woven in the tail where I had started to pick up stitches, hadn't I? Look, how satisfying is that? Very satisfying. At least it's only a few rows. There it goes. That's the last one. Oh, and of course it's getting caught up there. That's probably where I wove it in and it's all fuzzy and not wanting to let go. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to start this again. I dropped my yarn ball on the floor. Here she is. So what I should probably do, it's early enough probably that I can get this picked up again tonight. But I will do that after I have uploaded this video to YouTube. Yeah, it was a good shift at work actually. Yesterday I was working in the general craft area. So I was learning where lots of different things go, like wooden letters and glue and acrylic paint, and finding out there's a hell of a lot of different kinds of acrylic paint. It's crazy how many different kinds there are. And today there was more stock to be put out on the other side of the store. So I was in party today. I was partying all afternoon. I was putting away candles, ribbons, cake decorating things, that sort of thing, party bags. So yeah, that was another good learning experience because it's a fantastic way of learning where everything goes. And of course, helping people who are looking for stuff. And again, you learn more about what we have and where it is when people ask questions too. So I certainly don't mind any interruptions because it's all good learning. So that's today. Almost over, except for a bit of knitting. So I hope you enjoyed visiting me today. Thank you so much for watching and being here. Really appreciate you all. And I will see you again tomorrow for Vlogtober Day 4.